Do you want to know how to increase your influence? The most powerful ways to influence others, and how to influence anyone without them even knowing? If so, keep watching this video. After learning these 7 easy steps onto increasing your influence, you'll be able to be more memorable, make killer first impressions, use your skills to increase your income, master successful communication, and connect with more people. 1. Get their juices pumping. And when I mean juices, I mean dopamine. The best way to intrigue, influence, and impact someone is to get their dopamine pumping. Dopamine is a chemical in your brain that's sent out whenever you have a positive or happy experience. The right interactions can trigger this very reaction. 1. Abandon boring social scripts. 2. Use killer conversation starters. No more "how's the weather" or "what's up." Here's a tip that I really recommend to everyone. Don't be afraid to be a little weird. Weird actually equals dopamine. When people experience something absurd, surreal, or just different from the norm, it actually boosts their creative thinking. When I ask you about your nightmares, your dreams, and your hopes, you like me more than someone who'd ask you about the weather. 2. Be emotionally curious. And before I go into depth about what this means, let me tell you a short story. So, during the 1800s in England, there were these two men who were both running to be prime minister, Benjamin Disraeli and William Gladstone. And they both happened to ask the same woman out to lunch on the same day. And the press were really interested, and they wanted to ask the woman who she liked better. And they went up to her and they're like, "So what's your opinion about these two men?" And she answered by saying, "When I met Gladstone, I felt like he was the cleverest person in all of England. But when I met Mr. Disraeli, I felt like I was the cleverest person in all of England." Guess who won the next election? If you guessed Mr. Disraeli, then you're correct. Many people think being influential is about showing off how special and important you are, but actually, the most influential people have this amazing ability to make the other person feel really special and important. To be important, you must make other people feel important. Here's another way to word it, and this was by Dale Carnegie. He said, "To be interesting, you have to be interested." So when people talk about themselves or their experiences, it actually releases positive hormones, good feeling, and motivation. So this is because whenever I talk about my own stories, my own experiences, my own positive moments, I feel proud and I get more motivated. And so say I'm talking to you and you ask me about these good feelings, I feel even better. So 1, ask people open-ended questions. Ask how and why questions, not what and when questions. How and why questions have more to go. What and when are limited to certain answers. 2, add, not subtract. You want to add to people. You don't want to subtract to what they're saying. So the thing about most influential people is they have this mastered. When you're speaking with someone, always try to add on to what they're saying. Add on your own thoughts and your own information. Don't be a subtractor. Don't be complainers, negative people, judgmental. Just add on to what they're saying. So another way to word this is doing yes and or no but. You can disagree, but do it in a way where you still value their information. Yes, and add on to your opinion. Or no, but add on to their opinion. This goes a lot of ways. Here are a few do's and don'ts during conversation. Do. Ask interesting questions. Give genuine compliments. And this is super easy because you're always thinking about other people anyway. So, yes, you're going to compliment them. 3. Ask how and why questions more than what and when questions. 4. Tell people stories. Stories. 5. Ask about positive memories. Don't. Criticize, complain, disagree, gossip, and especially don't do this, guys. Scope the room for someone better to talk to. That's the worst thing you can do when having a conversation. 3. Use power body language. So a few definitions we should go over is testosterone and cortisol. So testosterone is a power hormone, which is really positive, and cortisol is a stress hormone that you get when you're scared or nervous. So your body language actually affects your mood. There was a recent study where they got groups of students and they put them into separate groups, and one group they made them do power poses, high power poses, and another group were low power poses, like negative poses, and these were contracted and versus expensive. And basically, they then got both groups of students to go into a mock interview. And the group of students who were put into high power poses actually performed way better. They were more confident and they spoke with more authority. This is a great way showing how your body language affects your mind and mood. It affects how you talk, how you think about yourself, and how you think about others. So, 1. Pre-power pose. Before you go into that meeting, before you go into that party, before you go into that event, before you go into that presentation. Pre-power pose. When you're in that presentation, use ideal power posing, and then avoid all low power posing at all costs. So do high power posing. These are expansive. Your head is high, arms loose, shoulders back, chest out, and they claim territory. Although these aren't ideal as when you're in the meeting or during the presentation, you should do these before the presentation because these can be seen as really aggressive, but they do boost your mood really well. Here are do's for ideal power posing. They're still expansive, but they're subtle about it. Your head is high, your shoulders are rolled back, and your chest is out. And these are a few examples. Here are things you should avoid. Low power posing. These are contracted. The head is down, bowed, and shoulders are rolled, and there's as little space as possible. 4. Once upon a time. So the really cool thing about using the power stories is when someone tells us a story, our brain activities start to sync with theirs. So it's a really interesting thing because when I share my positive memory with you, you can share this personal moment and also feel the things I'm feeling. And then we'll be more connected overall. So your action steps for this would be to create a story toolbox. And what I mean by this is a mental reminder of a list of stories or personal experiences that you have gone through, and they should have relevant topics, thought-provoking ending questions. So as in at the end of the one where you talk about how you went on this really crazy movie, you could say, been to any movies recently? And you ask the other person about their experience after you tell your story. This does two things. A, it avoids undersharing, and it also avoids over talking. Then C is avoid spontaneous trait influence. And spontaneous trait influence is when you criticize, gossip about someone, and their traits are immediately associated with you. For example, if you were talking to me about the story, I don't know, and then all of a sudden you talk about a person, you're like, oh yeah, she's super lazy. Me, subconsciously, lazy, the word lazy is immediately associated with you because you said that. Even though you're talking about someone else, it's associated with you in my subconscious. When I think about you, the first few things I'm going to think about are the things you called other people. So be nice, don't gossip, because you don't want this to happen to you. 5. Bear your emotions. Show vulnerability and weakness. So, in a recent study, they got two women and made them both sell blenders, and they both looked alike. They were both similar in looks, personality, but they were both different. They both had the same presentation when they were showing off their blender, but they were both making a smoothie at the end with the blender. And the first lady did this entire thing perfectly, smiled, and everyone loved her. The second lady did the exact same thing, had the exact same presentation, but at the very end she forgot to tighten the cap of the blender and the smoothie spilled everywhere. Guess who sold more blenders? The second woman, the one who messed up. Showing vulnerability or weakness humanizes you. It lets you more people relate with you or connect with you. Because we as humans, everyone makes mistakes. We stutter, we hesitate, we drop this, we trip. And doing this, showing off this, makes people like you more. It does. And remember, spotlight effect. Your vulnerabilities aren't that noticeable to others. Be confident. Like the littlest things. Everyone's thinking about themselves. Everyone's thinking, oh my god, what if they see this? Oh my god, what if they judge this? Well, if everyone's thinking about themselves, then why would they think about your things? And why would they judge you? Don't be afraid to point out your imperfections. And two, share your vulnerable moments from stories in your story toolbox. 6. Favor me. So let's talk about the Franklin effect. Ask for a favor and win a friend. So Benjamin Franklin was a really great influencer of his time, and he came up with the Franklin effect. So he was running for politician, and he really needed a lot of supporters. And he did have a lot of supporters, but he also had a lot of people who were haters. And so he was thinking, well, I could actually make this election a landslide if I get those haters onto my side. So he was thinking, well, there's this really influential person on the hater side, and I wonder if I could make him one of my supporters or even my friend, I might win this election by a lot because a lot of people would start to support me more. And so, thinking about this, he went to that guy and he asked for a book from his library. He said, can I borrow this book? It's really interesting. Can't find it anywhere. I happen to know you have it. Can I borrow it and maybe return it to you in a week? And that guy, A, he was immediately flattered. Yes, this might not be your first reaction, like, it might be, why is he asking me this? But he was immediately flattered, because obviously, if someone asks you for a favor, you're flattered. Like, they ask for your guidance, your help, your assistance. 2, he gave him the book, and then he was thinking, well, what else can I do for him? Since he asked, I want to help him out more. And 3, later, Benjamin Franklin returned the book with a thank you letter a week later, and they became close friends, talking about the book and then more things they had in common, and Benjamin Franklin won that election. This just shows how you can ask for advice, opinions, or guidance, and how asking for a favor actually shows that you need help or assistance. It shows vulnerability, which attaches to the other thing. So don't be the person who asks for a favor every day, like, oh, can I borrow this, or can I do that, or do this? But ask for advice, opinions, or guidance. Those are small things you can ask anyone, and they will help you out, and they will in return think of you as a more powerful person with more authority. They will like you way more. Trust me. 7. Get contagious or be charismatic. Here's a tip. Your mood is contagious and charisma is spread non-verbally. For example, in a recent research, they had groups of people and they ranked them with charisma. They measured their hormones, they made them take a mood test, and they put the people with the highest charisma with the people with the lowest charisma. So they paired people like together and they put them in a room with like no one, and there was only one person who was really high charismatic and one person who was low charismatic, and they put them in a room together and they just stood them there for a while, and it's about 5 minutes, and then 5 minutes later they brought them out of the room and they took their mood tests and their saliva readings again. And this is the crazy part. The people who were high charismatic were still high charismatic. They were still in a really good mood, really positive vibes. The people with the low charismatic, however, were actually higher charismatic now. They had done nothing in the room. They just stared at the person like 6 feet apart, done nothing for 5 minutes. Their charisma was spread, and this was shown all over the charts. So just remember that your charisma is spread non-verbally. If you have good vibes, spread it to other people, then they get good vibes. It's a really cool experience. So remember the 3 T's. What are the 3 T's, you may ask? Well, the 3 T's are tilt, toes, and torso. So tilt, toes, and torso. So 3 T's are actually ways you can show the other person that you're listening to them, which is a great way to spread charisma and make them feel valued when you're talking. This can also help them talk a little more. So by tilt, I mean tilt your head to the side a little, and this shows that you're actually really engaged in the conversation, and this is a great way for them to talk a little like faster, and they talk more. They share more if they see that you're more interested and you do this. Torso and toes is you align your torso and toes with each other and then align that with the other person, and non-verbally you're facing towards them, but it totally helps them express themselves and to make sure they know that you're listening. And finally, I just want you guys to remember this. People don't remember how you look or what you say or what clothes you're wearing. They actually remember how you made them feel. So if you made them feel good, good job, because they will like you more. Thank you. I hope you loved this video. For more videos like this, please like, share, and subscribe to the Success Bistro.